My son's kids are going to be working on this place. We'll be in wheelchairs by the time we're done with this. They'll be like, when did they start working on this? Oh, back in 2022. But that is 2055. Yeah, and they've been dead for 10 years. Yeah, they didn't finish.
Hello and welcome back to episode 9 of The Graveyard House. In this episode, we get electrical upgrades started. Ken's chimney, look at that right there, is going to be basically moved quite further along. And this floor is the floor that I redid in episode 8, but I had to do this floor over. So in this case, this whole floor is getting redone too. And what else did we do? Oh, we put an EV charger in this episode. I did talk in the past about doing the radiant floor in this house, but I won't be able to do that until the chimney's done with the risk of dropping rocks on the floor. Ken said it's too risky, and you should see what the floor looks like. It's a disaster with rocks and gravel. And once that's done and I get all the floors leveled down on the ground floor, I'm going to hold off on that. Upcoming episodes, I'm going to frame the second floor. Got to rip out the bathroom up there. The plumbing's ripped out of most of the house now. It's no longer an operating house like it was when I bought it, but that's because of all the upgrades that have to take place. You got to out with the old and in with the new. So enjoy this episode, and I'll get back to you in the end. Starting things off on this episode, we have our own little Stonehenge here. These are Ken's private collection of stones that he brought over because he thought they would go well together. You have these two upright pillars that are going to be either side of the hearth or the opening of the fireplace, with one that goes across the top, which we install a little bit later because Ken didn't want to install it until we got the stones up to that surface. In the last episode, we were just at this point where Ken was laying down that stone that Mike's got his foot on right there. And we're placing these, again, either side of the hearth. Now, these are going to get buried into the wall. And this thing's looking beautiful. I obviously get a chance to see what it looks like right now before you guys get to the end of the video. I was just over there. And here we're just placing these big stones. And he's like a nervous mother, making sure we put them in the right place. We're also making sure we don't chip anything, even though it's rustic stone. Ken does have a plan, and we don't want to chip or break anything. And so he's just feeling how it stands on its own. And ultimately, we're going to have to put some shims in there to get it stood into place. And because the top of this hearth is going to carry thousands of pounds of stone, Ken wanted us to put this 4x4 piece of steel in there. So this is a big 4x4 piece of steel angle iron, which is going to get glued in place. And ultimately, everything will get trapped in place. But temporarily, we're going to use some Titebond fast set construction adhesive just to get these things all put in place. Here what you're watching is just a little bit of the negotiation of how everything sits together, how it will sit together, and Ken just giving us some instruction. Ultimately, this thing gets an entire scaffolding built around it in the next couple days after this. So you see I'm just using some Titebond fast set to glue the stone right down. And this isn't really to hold the stone forever and ever. It's not moving now. Wait till you see how much stone is put in this place. It's not moving now, but this was just in the meantime while we were doing some work on it or moving around until some of the stone was built up in and around this. That's why these pieces were glued in place, just to hold everything in place while it needed to be set in place.
Wait, no, start over. No, why are you doing that? Wait. We're going to cut a couple chocks to level a stone, right? Oh, look.
I need the one from your website.
I know. Look at that. Look, now we could cut chocks. Be a man. Chucky guide.
You win. How does it feel to have the upper hand?
Once every 1,000 times, I'm right. It's nice. Put it right against the light. Put it right here. Nah, that shit. This stuff will stick to anything.
Okay.
Don't get it on your hands. It'll take about 6 weeks for it to come off.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for.
No, I'm not even kidding.
I don't want it
know
to
you're
drip
not.
down on the stone.
What's that?
I'm just trying to, so it doesn't drip down. You know when you think you're
I'm gonna stick it as soon as you're done. I'm ready to go. So.
Ken, hold that stone just so it doesn't topple out.
Okay. Just slide this way a little bit. Looks like.
Rub against it.
And now it's a few weeks later, and Ken has built up some stone around either side of the hearth. So those upright pillars for the Stonehenge temple are held in place. And now this is the top. This isn't necessarily the mantle, but it's the top of the hearth, and you'll see that in just a minute. And me and Patrick strap it to a big 4x4, and now we're rolling it in. So you can see how much further Ken has gotten further along. Now, I wanted to show you how to lift something up heavy, really heavy, high. And we were sitting around thinking for a couple of minutes what to do, and then it occurred to me, you go up higher and higher each time. You don't need to carry the whole load. You're just moving it a few inches at a time. And now here I got some scrap 2x6s from the previous flooring jobs. And now we're just zigzagging our way up. Ken is standing directly in front of the meat and potatoes there. But we're zigzagging our way up, and that's an easy way to pick a 300-pound stone up gently, slowly, simply, and now it's pushed into place. We got it high enough and we pushed it over into place. And now you can see the beauty of that stone, how natural and organic it is. And they can pick those out. And Ken was nervous until he was able to trap that top stone in. I don't think we put any glue on that because at this point he knew it was going to begin to get trapped. So I did put that 2x apparatus there, that 2x6 apparatus, just to keep this in place. I had it kind of hooked inside of the flue. And that was just so that we wouldn't get a tumble or a raccoon climbing on it or something, just so we wouldn't have any issues. And the wedges were keeping it tilted up and faced in. And now you could see, by the end of this video, Ken's about 6 or 7 feet higher.
But that is 2055. Yeah, and they've been dead for 10 years. Yeah, they didn't finish. They didn't get to see it done. And now you see why.
We're gonna reroute the electric.
Yeah.
I'm getting ready for Patrick to come. And you know, I thought I had to break out the drill, but I don't need to. All I got is
No, you just take out the punky sill plate. We don't need no stinking sill plates.
I think I hit solid wood though, actually.
Oh, where?
About a quarter of an inch from the inside.
Really? Because it looks like you're about 4 inches in and we didn't hit nothing. Yeah. Put a tack in it, man. We'll get it later.
Look at
That's the house. Watch your hand. You might lose it. The corner of the house collapses on it.
All right, let's go look inside.
All right.
We're still quite a few inches away from the inside of the house. Look at that.
You might have ran into that joist, that corner joist.
But I'm saying, I think what we're grabbing at with the bread is the other side of this. Just it's routed only about 4 inches in.
Here we go. Nice.
Who needs a drill?
You don't need a drill. You could just, if you punch at the punky wood long enough, you go right through to the other side.
Oh, I think we hit solid wood finally.
Yeah. Yeah, it was about 6 inches in. That's not bad. It's all right. Cover it up with a board. Leave it for the next guy. Reminds me of a joke. A termite walks into a bar and says, "Where's the bartender?" Get it?
I don't get it. Add it to the list. Here you see I am able to drill through about 4 or 5 inches of solid wood, so it's not all that bad, but it does need some attention.
When we pull this floor up, we can't go all gorilla on. We gotta pull it up nice because I don't know what this is sitting on, and this is holding up the second floor of the house. I don't know what's holding this up, and it's these.
Right.
We're gonna have to jack the shit out of this in both corners, but I want to see what's underneath here first. That's why I want to pull this up nice, and then because if we got nothing substantial going down into the basement, guess what? The second floor is gonna be in the basement. If you would have just listened to me from Jump Street and said, when I said run away, "Hey Mike, what do you think of this house?" I was like, purchase.
As you guys might know by now, this is 2 houses side by side, technically speaking, and there was 2 passageways through on either side of these 3 wall planks. And I said, let's get rid of them. The sill plate above it seemed strong enough, but what I didn't know is that these 18-inch wide planks were going to create some pressure right here.
Maybe not. Still no blood. We're all right.
We got to get a piece of steel or something in here. How come these didn't have a lot of pressure on? This is an open doorway the whole time. It's just these 3 panels have the weight on them.
Why
That
is
one.
anything the way it is in this house? So.
Tighten? A lot? Enough. You were able to pull it out?
No, I took the blade out.
Oh.
What's the worst could happen? We collapse it? That'd be my f***ing dream. We don't have to work on it no more. Watch out! And I got the blade back.
We got to come back to work tomorrow.
Yeah. I knew this house would fall down. Stick it right up my...
Right here you could see those pieces of wood that were grabbing the saw blade. I was able to bolt them to this header here. Put the spacer in, we bolted it to this header so it stopped coming down. But I did put a proper column here and a forever column right here. So that's going to keep all that stuff propped up. So I'm not worried about that anymore. It was a little scary when the saw blade grabbed. It can only indicate one thing: gravity's doing its job. As I mentioned, we're upgrading the electric. We're going from 100 to 200 amps. Eaton is supplying all the components. Everything's going to be brand new and replaced. In this case, we're upgrading to the 200 amp panel. We currently do not have this wiring connected to the pole. That's an appointment we need to make with the electrical company. They got to come out. It's a little bit more involved. I am going to run that new 200 amp service through the sill plate that I showed off. That's all in need of repair, as usual. With an old house like this, every time you make a turn, something new comes up. Patrick and I are just installing this here just for a little bit of show and tell, but it's also just to kickstart this process. And here Patrick is getting the 200 amp circuit set up.
So this is a ground fault 2-pole 50. We're going to use this for the EV charger. And you have a plug-on neutral, but this one is not a plug-on breaker. So we're just going to take this pigtail. And now most people leave that pigtail, but I don't see any reason for that. It just takes up space in the panel. It's not needed. So there's...
Cut it short.
Yeah, we're going to make that neat. We're going to like cut it to size. So that's why I'm just doing like a dry fit, seeing what looks good.
As I said, we're working on future-proofing this graveyard house, and we're planning for a bunch of electrical upgrades, including adding an EV charger. Eaton and ChargePoint have teamed up to provide the best commercial and residential chargers with the biggest distribution network you can find. You can find ChargePoint chargers at most Eaton distributors, and you can learn more about their partnership at RE+, largest clean energy trade show in North America in Las Vegas, September 8th through 11th. Check out the link in the video description for more information. My brother comes up from time to time, and here in the boonies it's hard to find a charger. So it's been perfect for him to visit these last couple of weeks. He could charge right up before he heads out. Thank you, Eaton, and thank you, Patrick. In the evolving process of the fireplace, now it's time for what it amounts to be the mantel. There's a natural bump out in the original construction of the mantel, built in the 90s apparently by some of the previous owners, like 2 or 3 owners ago. Nobody really understands the story behind the fireplace. It was oddly placed in this weird room, but I decided to keep it. And so now Ken and I are just rollering it in. That piece of stone probably weighs about 200, 300 pounds. And you could see, using the technique I showed earlier, how we just rock and roll it up in the air, one on either side. Here, in this case, I'm using my apple boxes. I have about 15 different apple boxes. And so I thought to Ken, we got to go up to that ledge that you see just at the top of the screen where the cinder blocks and the stones meet. This is going to be the mantle up there in the air. And it's also, like I said, a natural spot where the cinder blocks step back and get skinnier. And so Ken's using that as his natural skinny spot. And now we're as high as the scaffolding, which is the first time you've seen the scaffolding. And now we're on the scaffolding. And I think we don't get it up into the edge of the stone in this video because I think Ken wanted to do some more work, so he was able to just step and work on it for a couple of days. So using the method of the boxes, he was able to place it himself alone. And now this is today, in fact. You can see how much further up in the air we are. You can see where that stone lives. Coming out beautifully. It's really, really beautiful. Now, I wanted to tell you the story about why this giant hole is in the floor. after really assessing this area, we opened up that wall, got rid of those 3 planks. I decided that flooring just needed to go. So here you see me working on getting rid of this floor. I talked about maybe putting radiant in the house, and I thought I was ready for it, but I certainly was not ready for it. With Ken working on that floor in the other room, he said he didn't want the stones to damage anything beneath him, so he said wait on the radiant. And then, of course, with this floor completely being on level and that front floor that I actually already fixed, I said to the guys that are supplying the radiant, I said, let's just wait a little while. Money and time, obviously, is the inhibitor for most projects, and those are 2 things that I don't seem to have enough of. And so I'm just holding off, but in doing what I can when I can. And when I decided to level this floor, I took a good look at it and I said, I don't want to fix it. I want to get rid of it and start again, just like I did in the other room. I think it's really important, considering how much work I'm putting into this house, physical and financially. I want to make sure that when it's done and you walk around and you look at it, if another building inspector comes in, he sees that the work was done with integrity. I didn't want to shim this floor up. I just thought that that would not be a good thing. That was my consideration. I was going to leave this underfloorment and then just level it with long, thin shims. And I just figured, you know what, that's just not going to work. So I'm removing all the wood. All the wood will get reused somewhere in the house. So I'm not worried about wasting the wood. In fact, I might use these floor joists here, these they're about 5x5, 4x4 floor joists, random cut widths. I'm going to use these floor joists that I'm pulling out now as collar ties in the back room, in front and in back of the fireplace. So they're not going to go to waste. None of the wood will go to waste. I'll make furniture out of it ultimately if I have to. But that back sill plate, in the very first episode, I fixed the rotted sill plate in the back there before I really knew what I was getting into. And that whole back wall is dropped about 5 inches. I raised it up about 3 is where I felt comfortable raising that wall up. And now that back wall is still 2 inches out of level. So when you see the new sill plates that I put in with pockets to carry the new beams, you will see that it is higher than the sill plate there. You see the new wood sill plate? I'm going to just sister it right onto it. Sister is another term for just adding it directly on top of the old sill plate. So that sill plate underneath that window with those pockets in it at about every 30 inches is the original sill plate. I leave it there and I just add a new one directly to the side of it, a new 8x8. And in this case, like I always say, you learn on the first one. The first floor I did, me and Rob hand cut all of the pockets. Here, this is just assessing the damage. I just cleared that floor completely out. And I'm showing you, this is the one that we did in the last episode. And now this is the one that I started in this episode. There's the old one. You could see those are 6x8s, 16 inches on center. And now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go 6x6s, 16 on center. Now I'm doing 6x6s because it was overkill to do the 8s and they were a little too cumbersome to carry alone. And you'll see in just a minute, I bring in this 8x8. I brought that in all the way from the backyard. It was about 100 feet from the house. But I got it down in the basement by myself, and I'm getting it up into position by myself. It takes one full 17 foot plus another 4 or 5 foot piece. So it's about 22 feet from left to right on the screen right there. And then the 6x6s that are going to get dropped into the pockets are all going to be about 13 foot 6. So the room is about 14 and a half or 15 by 22. And I'm spacing them 16 on center again. Here you see me get it into position by myself, and I'm using the big long timber locks to hold this all in place. And I'm whacking those in there. I did follow up with that sill plate and this sill plate and put in 10-inch, half-inch lag bolts every 4 feet. So the big timber locks were just to get it to stay there, and then I followed up. So you can see the fresh sill plate on the right side of the screen, and me and Rob are installing the second one on the left side. Now that other little floor there, that was in the you could see in the front of the house, in front of where Rob is, that's not disturbed at this point. I think I'm going to leave it because, believe it or not, it's level. It's the only thing in the house that's level. So I'm going to leave it as is. The radiant's going to go on top of it. And on top of that, we're going to get a whole new hardwood floor. And so here's Rob and I just positioning that. And then I screw all that in. And then I come back with a router jig this time. That's why I started saying you go to school on the first one. And the first one we hand cut and chiseled out every pocket that carried all those beams every 16 inches. In this case, I got a brainstorm. I said, why don't I make a router jig? And that's what you see me do. Now here you see the router jig. I just flush cut it as deep as I can. Then I lower it again and flush cut it as deep as I can. I go down 3 inches. I go in 3 inches. And I take the jig off and I have to mark the bottom so I know how far to stop. And I just keep lowering it down and lowering it down until I hit the bottom. I got a little blower there. And I do need this long hold out. You see that router bit sticks out 3 inches. So I had 2 routers, one with the flush cut and then this one down as deep as I could. And then I just break the plug out and smooth the bottom of the hole. And that's how I did it. And I use the Zizzer, whatever that tool is called, the multi-tool. I use the multi-tool wherever the grain, and in the bottom of every plug there was the most complicated burly knot, so I couldn't just bang it out. Probably half of them had a burly knot through the plug. It was, of course there was a burly knot. I couldn't just bang them out. And here you see me do one full one. Each one took about 8 to 10 minutes to get it done right. And I was able to do 28 pockets in one day with the router jig. So there's going to be 14 beams in this thing. And there you see left and right. Now this is ultra time lapse where you see me do all the way down the row till I finish. And like I said, if you don't see me just pop it straight out, that's because there was a burly knot right on the bottom of the plug. But this was a much easier way to do this. I don't know why I didn't think to do this on the first one. It took us days and days and days. We did like 2 or 3 pockets a day that was so strenuous. It's not what I do on a daily, is do these pockets. If I was a timber framer, this is the type of thing I would be doing, like drinking a cup of coffee, but I'm not a timber framer. Doing something like this by hand is supremely a pain in the ass. It's satisfying when you do it, but if you're not using a router jig like you see me doing here, it is all work and you're sharpening your chisels every few minutes. It is a lot of work. So the router saved me, and that's what you see me doing. So I was able to start in the morning and do all of them throughout the entire day and get them all done. And now I'm waiting on the custom beams that aren't cut yet. Custom because of the length. He has 12s, I think, sitting around, but I needed 14s so that I have that little bit of extra length to cut them to fit. They're parallel. They're only out by maybe a ½ inch from one side of the room to the other. But here you could see, that's all Ken stonework from the outside of the building. Now you can see it from the inside. And that whole new crawl space is opened up now. I was able to cut all the plumbing out because it's all getting replaced, everything. And there you could see the floor I did in the last episode, right next to the new floor. This was difficult, but I'm very glad I did it. And now I'm going to be just as happy that I did this. The floor is going to be level. You're not going to see patchwork. You're not going to see long shims. In this house, every floor we ripped up, there was all kinds of shims underneath it. Now, before I end this episode, I wanted to take you on a little walking tour. Here you could see I'm walking on top of the floor we replaced in episode 8. Now I'm going upstairs. And now that the plumbing has been removed, I'm going to rip out the upstairs bathroom. Upstairs, you could see, is pretty much ready to be framed. Got to put in the new wall right here. I don't know why the previous owner removed it. When he stripped the whole house, he took out that wall. I'm probably going to keep the same bathroom location, but I'm going to get rid of the fixtures are going. We're going to make the bathroom look vintage, kind of like a Restoration Hardware. And there you can see that still needs a couple of windows put into it. But this is the 2 bedrooms upstairs on the north side of the house. And all these weird, odd framing. This is how it was when I got the house. I'm going to put proper walls in it so we can hide electrical and insulation in the walls for soundproofing. And this is the 1 bedroom that was ready to go. But I want to show you something in an upcoming episode. I'm going to show you right inside there. There's a hidden room. There is a door in the sheetrock right there. And there's a small little weird closet room. It's about the same size as this closet room, which is remnants before this extension was added. So this was inside the house at one point. So now you can see where I'm looking down into Ken's stone fireplace. Upcoming episodes, we're going to start working on the ceiling in that room. And now this little weird room, I'm going to show you what it looks like from underneath. Those are the 3 bedrooms in the bathroom on the 2nd floor. And now when I go down the stairs and I turn back around into what's going to become the kitchen dining room, and I look up through the broken floor plank right here, that's that secret weird room. I never told you guys about it. There's the door from the inside of that weird room, which I'm going to open up the sheetrock and see what's going on in there. You could see there's water damage from a previous life and the like signs through from inside the house. But I'm going to figure out maybe there's a ghost in there. Ryan figured that out. I didn't even know that was there. Ryan figured that out when he was doing the model of the house. And then all that's going to get covered up with a new wall. Hi, Ken. All right, thank you to all my sponsors. Thank you to Type Bond. Thank you to Eaton and everybody else that's helped to make this a reality. Mike, always with the comic relief. Thanks, Mike. And Ken, big shout out to Ken for his beautiful stonework. Upcoming episodes, I'm going to start working on the 2nd floor. I'm going to get back into the heating systems, and we're going to open up that weird bedroom up there. I'm going to frame this. Definitely going to work on the ceiling. It's endless. Well, as Mike said, maybe by 2055, we'll have the final episode. Thank you for joining me. See you again. Right here, you could see those pieces of wood that were grabbing the saw blade. I was able to bolt them to this header here. Put the spacer in, we bolted it to this header so it stopped coming down. But I did put a proper column here and a forever column right here. So that's going to keep all that stuff propped up. So I'm not worried about that anymore. It was a little scary when the saw blade grabbed. Can only indicate one thing: gravity's doing its job.